Thank you all so much for coming out to Tech Tuesday at 2 on this amazing spring day. We're here to learn about all of the latest software and technology to help you be successful at OSU and beyond. As you can see here in the front rows, we have some buttons here for you, so go ahead and take those home with you if you'd like. Last month at Tech Tuesday, we learned all about coding with HTML. If you missed that, you can find it on ostate.tv or the library's website by searching Tech Tuesday, where we also have all of our other previous events. Today, we're learning all about video editing with Adobe Premiere, featuring the library's own multimedia specialist, Nina Thornton. She's going to tell us all about that. She's our resident video expert. And then after our program, we're going to draw for our prizes, including today's grand prize, a brand new GoPro Hero 7 Silver. I'm really jealous that we get to give this out and not keep it for ourselves. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the Library Creativity Award, where it's your chance to win up to $1,000, including multiple $300 prizes. We also have trophies this year, so if you're not motivated by money, you can get a trophy. Why not? But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and begin our program, learning video editing with Nina Thornton. Nina, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. How are y'all today? Good. So we're going to jump right into Premiere today because we've got a few things to cover. But what we're going to go over is getting into Premiere. How do I start a new project? What do I see here? How do I put clips and start making a video? And then we're going to go into some of the details in the Premiere for Posterity portion of the name. Is we all have these amazing clips from home movies, things that maybe are from the past that we want to preserve for the future. So some of those preservation and repair things, those little aspects of Premiere, such as stabilization, because some of us aren't very stable when we hold a video camera, but there are some things that we can do. And then color correction, and then white balance, making sure our colors are true. So we'll get started. On your desktop, you will see a lovely folder created for you, Tech Tuesday Clips, okay? The first thing you need to know about Premiere is that it likes to have things kind of all in one bundle. So the best tip that I can give you when you're working on like public machines is to make a folder that will house your entire project. Now, if you plan on doing massive projects, there are more pro tips that we can talk about later. But if you bundle it in one folder, that's going to give you the ability to put it on a jump drive and take it wherever you go and not lose media. And we'll get to that. So we're going to edit with some of my favorite home movies of my puppies, because who doesn't love a good puppy? So we have about 6 clips in here that we will use, so make sure, does everybody have 6 clips? Yeah? Good deal. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get in Premiere. So we'll go to our Start menu and search for Adobe Premiere and go ahead and click on that. We are going to house our project in that Tech Tuesday clip folder. Again, we're going to put everything in one. So the first thing that is going to come up, depending on your version, is going to be a project that looks something like this. You are going to start a new project, so click New Project. And then this little guy will pop up. So first, you're going to name your project. If you leave it as untitled, you won't know what it is. So I always advise to name your project appropriately. Puppies. And then again, we're going to direct all of our media clips to go into that folder. So underneath your name, it's going to say location. You're going to hit browse, okay? And then you're going to navigate to your desktop, Tech Tuesday Clips, and select folder, okay? Then you're going to hit OK. That's fine. Don't worry about that. So what you see here is the basic setup for editing in Premiere. Okay, let's go over what these 4 boxes are. First off, you can change this layout just like any other Adobe product. So if you see at this top line here, there are different automatic setups for you depending on what you're doing. For example, color. If you click on that, it's going to bring up this color panel over here when you add a color effect, and you can customize this. So we're just going to stick to editing. So go back to editing at that top. There you go. So to start off on this bottom left-hand side here, if you are on the editing tab, where it says import media to start, that is going to be your bin. Okay, Premiere calls this a project bin. This is where all of your raw media is going to be, whether that's pictures, video, audio, and we're going to import into here. So if you either right-click or go to File, Import, we're going to go to File, Import, and then I'm going to select by hitting Control and selecting each of these clips, and then Open. And all of them should pop up in here, right? Everybody there? Good deal. So if you click on one of these clips, let's just go ahead and double click. The next window that you'll come to is a preview window. This is the window right above your bin. This is so you can preview what you're about to assemble in your timeline, okay? This box on the bottom right that says drop media here to create a sequence. The sequence is what you're going to make your movie in. This is your timeline, okay? So this will show you a program. It's called a program monitor. It will show you whatever is down here in your timeline. For example, I'll show you how to do this here in a second. Now it's showing what is in my timeline. Does that make sense? So we have our bin, which houses our media. We can preview our media up here before we drop it in our timeline, which is on the bottom right, or our sequence, and it will show up on the top right program box. 90% of your media editors will kind of look like this. It's the same premise. So whether you're associated with Final Cut or Avid or even Windows Movie Maker, they will have some similar boxes. So I'm going to delete that. All right. It's important to note that all of the software really operates on an in and out system, okay? Where you're telling the system, I want to take this point to this point and put it somewhere. This point to this point. That is the in and out. That is represented on your keyboard shortcut as in I, out O. So if I was to mark this clip, I want to take this portion, I would press I, and then I would move my timeline indicator, which is this little blue triangle-ish thing, to the right, which indicates the passing of time, and then I would press O. What that will do is create a little section that is kind of shadowed or highlighted on your screen. Now you can insert or add clips to your timeline in 3 different ways. The easiest way by far is going to be clicking and dragging. So I'm going to left click on this clip. It's only going to take the in and out point and drag down to your timeline. Okay? That is the easiest way to pull something in. There are 2 other ways that are hotkeys on your keyboard. I am going to, for argument's sake, just take another little portion so you can see what it does. Your in and out, or insert and overwrite, are the 2 hotkeys, insert and overwrite. Insert is represented by a comma, so you would go to your comma on your keyboard. What this is going to do is you have to mark on your timeline, again with that in and out system, where you want the clip to go. So if you want the clip to be inserted at the beginning of your timeline, you mark that position. Okay? If you want it to be at the end of that next clip, so you want to put it right after, hit I or in and mark that section. Okay? So from here, we talked about the comma. So we're going to insert this clip. Again, we're previewing this. We need it to get into the final product. We've already selected this portion. We're going to hit comma. See how it ended right in there? Ish right. Chaw. All right. To take it out, I'm going to hit delete. Bloop. Select it, make delete. The other hotkey does something a little different. So this is insert. It inserts it right in the middle and scoots everything over. Period is overwrite. Period is going to overwrite what's already in your timeline. So if my timeline indicator is here and I've marked in, watch what happens. I'm going to put this at the end for demo and bloop. So the length of this clip in the timeline didn't change because it overwrote over the other clip. So there's insert that inserts it and moves everything over, and then there's overwrite that literally overwrites what's underneath it. But again, by far, simplest is clicking and dragging, okay? They made that very easy. There are also two ways, well, three ways to take clips out, okay? So for argument's sake, we're going to put that bad boy back. You can click on that clip and hit delete, and then it's going to take it out, okay? Now what that did was it left a gap. That is very, very similar to the semicolon, okay? If you hit semicolon after you mark what portion you want to take out, it will do the same thing as delete. However, if you touch apostrophe, it's going to move clips back together. Okay, so it's going to basically ripple delete everything to the right. Now I teach you this because these can cause some problems. Okay, if you have a lot of media over here, you may not want to collapse everything this way. You may have a set time that you want to hit. So say your program needs to be 10 minutes. If you hit apostrophe and move everything in, then your time isn't right. So there's a number of different things you can do with both of those. Just know those exist. Clicking and dragging is the easiest to put things in there. Clicking and deleting is the easiest way to take things out. So there's another thing that you may notice. So there's this little colorful panel over here. So the V1, V2, V3 indicates video channels. What you may notice is that the A1, A2, A3, there's no audio to these clips. So an audio track does not insert down here. Let me show you what that would look like if I did have an audio track. Just in case. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Just kidding, wrong clip. That was just a test. Okay, so see how that audio came in automatically? Now, if you did double click, you can see that the video and audio are represented by these two buttons. So you can click and drag audio only, or you can click and drag video only. And you can put it on any of these channels, video, marked V. And then if you click and drag audio only, you can drag that on any of the A channels, okay? You can add more channels whenever you want by right-clicking and then add tracks. You can specify how many tracks of video, how many tracks of audio, and just keep on going, okay? Now, I will say that when you are building up tracks, okay, we're going to put some things together using these 6 clips. But Premiere, Final Cut, they all view from the top down. What I mean by that is if you put a clip on video 2, you will block the view of video 1. Okay, so this clip is on video 2. I can hide this clip by looking at this little, the eyeball. And you can hide it by clicking that, and you'll see a little strike through. And what that does is let you view the clip below. That may be a little weird to see. Let's put this down there. All right. This will be more of a difference. So again, I'm going to hide that clip on top. Then I'm going to bring it in again. So if you are trying to overlay, let's say, a name key, or if you're trying to overlay a soft photo above grandma's face, I don't know, or I don't know. Home videos, man, you never know what people do. People are creative. You can come into your effects panel. So this is where we're going to kind of move into effects panel, because you can change that top video track and make it transparent. But what we're going to take a second to do is all of this puppy footage, I'm just going to put some things together. So I'm going to set the scene here. So I'm going to mark in. I just want this portion. I'm going to mark out. I only want the video, so I'm going to drag onto V1. You can shorten and lengthen your clip right in your timeline. So let's say you marked in and out, and that was a little too much. If you just hover over the end of your clip, you can move the duration of that clip back and forth if you have enough in your clip. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put next puppy. Bloop, 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 bloop. Out of here. Boom. You can also mark in and out on your preview and program monitor with the mark in and mark out point. Again, it's over here. And then you can play your clip. You can preview it here. So mark in, mark out. And what I'm doing now is just simply linear editing. This is the basic move for stepping into video production. It's just that linear, one clip after another clip after another clip. You can play this video by either hitting spacebar or this play button here, and that will allow it to play. One thing you may notice is the yellow line. There are 3 shades that line comes in. Green is we're doing all right. You can see this in full playback, okay? It is rendered and your video card's keeping up with me. That yellow line means you may not see this in real-time playback because your video card may not be keeping up with the effect or the 4K video that you put in. Red means you're not going to see that in real playback. It's not going to happen. But you can fix that by rendering, and we'll talk about that when we go to export. So right now I have a few clips. I'm just going to make sure that everything looks okay. Again, if this is a little bit too long, all I can do is either hover and move my clip. I can click on this space, and if I need to collapse these clips, I'm going to right-click, ripple delete. We'll scoot that, or we already know a command for that. So if I mark in, I mark out, and I hit apostrophe, it automatically does it. It's just a little bit of a time saver for you. Again, I'm going to shorten this just a little bit. She's so fast. That's my Maple. I love her. All right. I'm going to actually put this in there too. And again, you can click and drag these anywhere you'd like. You can reorder your clips. Don't feel like they have to stay where they are. them. Aw. All right, so we got our little thing going on here. So let's talk about some of the footage that we've put in here. This one's a little shaky, right? I did this purposefully, okay? This is going to test the limits of what we call warp stabilizer. In no way, shape, or form do I want you to get shaky footage, okay? If it's real bad going in, it's going to be real bad going out. So you always want to, in camera, get the best possible footage you can. But all of the clips that I've given you today, we're testing some limits. So you'll see some of this little, this side effect of warp stabilizer, okay? So let's start to apply effects. The first thing you need to know is that in this preview panel, okay, you will have a tab up here that says Effect Control. Click on Effect Control. And if this CU Flowers to Stabilize isn't in your timeline, go ahead and put that in there for me. So this little guy here. And then we're going to click on that in our timeline. If the clip is white in your timeline, that indicates that that is the clip you are affecting. Is everybody with me so far? Good. So if I'm on this clip and it's white and I'm trying to adjust this, I'm not going to see anything because I'm not viewing the clip that I'm affecting. So I'm going to make sure that that is the clip I'm affecting, okay? In here are just the basic effects that Premiere automatically puts onto your clip. These are position, so X and Y axis. You can click with left click and drag, and you can drag these left and right or up and down on your screen, okay? If you want to undo what you just did, Control or Command Z is your best friend. So if you get too far and you're like, ooh, that looks real bad, just Control Z till it looks right again. It's fine. Scale, again, you can scale up, scale down, okay? Let's see. Opacity. So remember we talked about how it views from the top down, and maybe you want to put a nice flower over someone's face. I don't know. So top, down, you take opacity. Again, I'm affecting the flowers, and you pull down the opacity, and it's going to reveal what's underneath. Does that make sense? Perfect. So again, I'm going to Control Z until I like it again. Okay. We're going to apply an effect that isn't automatically in here. Now, when I apply an effect, it's going to come into here, okay? We're going to look for, first, warp stabilizer. So if you go down to the bottom bin where you have your projects, it should look like this. If you click this little double arrow, go to Effects, you're going to come up with your effect menu. You have audio effects, audio transitions, video effects, video transitions. This is where you'll find your star wipes and your dissolves. And all of your like denoisers for audio, things like that. But we're going to look in video effects. The quickest way to look for this is if you know the name of the effect, you can just type it in. If you don't know what you're looking for, you just click on the down arrow. It's going to be under Distort, because that's kind of what you're doing. And then you have Warp Stabilizer in here. In order to place that effect on your clip, you're going to left click on Warp Stabilizer and drag it. So you'll see that little indicator, and then bloop, it's going to give you a little plus sign, and then you just drop it. So this isn't going to fix everything, all right? If there's a little bit of shake, it's going to be all right. The more detailed your image is, sometimes it doesn't work as well. This is not a fix-all. You will see this warp stabilizer come into your effects controls panel. And what you'll see is a couple of different things. Number one, this stabilizing just happened. It's analyzing the footage, and it will interpret what it needs to. It's going to interpret it pixel by pixel and figure out what it needs to do to be stable. Okay. Smooth motion. There's a little drop-down menu here. Under this result, smooth motion is for when your camera is physically moving, okay? So if you are actively panning, but it needs to be a little smoother, if you are actively tilting, but the camera needs to be moving in order for this one to work well. The no motion is if you're on a tripod, which is kind of counterintuitive, it's fine. But it's if your camera is not moving. So those are the two options there. Most of the time it's going to be when your camera's moving, when you want the smooth motion or the warp stabilizer to begin with. Smoothness, you can adjust this. So the lower the number, the less amount the effect is going to apply. Higher number is the reverse of that. So when the warp stabilizer is applied, we'll actually kind of get into this. What it's basically doing, let me show you what warp stabilizer is doing. So we had our original clip. It's kind of shaky, right? Doesn't look too awesome. However, I'm just going to go ahead. Analyze that one more time. And I'm going to go down to this position, scale, and rotation. Subspace Warp is going to work for you most of the time. However, what it's actually doing, I don't know if, oh, that one's actually not too bad. So on the outside here, the frame is actually shifting position in order to stabilize the center of your footage. So that's kind of what it's doing. If you, so it even looks worse. Subspace Warp is really where you want to be, because what it's going to do is push all of that motion out to the sides, so stable that center. So from here, let's go ahead and click Analyze. Every time you do something to an effect, you need to reanalyze it, because you're changing it. And this is the only effect, I think, that analyzes. It goes through a process, but it's fairly quick, depending on the length of your clip. So we have shaky, and then I'm going to turn the clip on. Pretty smooth. That was pretty all right, right? That's a much more palatable shot. So that's what Warp Stabilizer is going to do for you. Stabilizer, crop, and auto scale, this little drop down here, is going to give you different options and different stabilizer looks as well. But 90% of the time, if this effect is going to work for you, then you're going to be on this stabilize, crop, and auto scale. It's just going to shift everything for you. So if you don't have a steady hand, sometimes it's okay. Get a tripod. Pro tip, get a tripod. But there are few instances where this warp stabilizer can kind of help you out. Let me show you where warp stabilizer doesn't fit. All right. I love this because Maple is just, she's my wild child. This is a clip of her doing a thing, and again, I am with an extended lens. I have a 200 on, and I am zoomed all the way in, and I am hand holding this, and it's a little bit shaky, right? What I'm going to do is apply warp stabilizer, and I want you to see when warp stabilizer goes wrong so you know what to look for, because warp stabilizer can go wrong. Analyze. Who doesn't love a good puppy? It's okay. You can tell me they're the cutest dogs ever. Does anybody have any questions about what Warp Stabilizer does, how you can use it while this analyzes? And is everybody caught up? Okay. All right, so you can see the progress there. So it's stabilizing. Here's when it goes very wrong. See how close that footage just got? That's because it shifted all of the movement to stabilize that little portion on the inside, and that's the only portion it has left. So if this number over here is close to 150, this auto scale, Warp Stabilizer is probably not going to work for you. There's way too much hand motion. So see how that's zooming in and out and doing some weird I'm on a boat situation? Isn't that's ugly. That's when the effect has gone wrong. Unfortunately, there's just a little bit too much shake for that automatic fix to happen, okay? Is that clear for everyone, or can I give you another clip that might be weird? Good? Okay. So even in this one, if you see there's a small bit of glitch right in that first part. It's real small. So pay particular attention when you do have Warp Stabilizer on, that there's no glitchy things in your clip. Okay, so we are going to move on to exposure. Let's see. All right, so a lot of this footage is pretty cool. It's pretty blue. So I really want to start color correcting. First, I have to make sure that my whites are represented well, my grays are represented well, and then my blacks are represented well in my footage. So I'm going to use an effect called Luma Tree or Lumetry, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to go into my effects palette again. Again, it's this double triangles here. Go to effects. Lumetry is spelled L-U-M-E-T-R-I. Color. There's a lot of Lumetry effects that are already in Premiere for you. You can play around with those. They're just color grading effects that are common. Lumetry color, you apply it the exact same way. So Lumetry color here, you will left click, click and drag onto the clip that you want to affect. That effect will then in turn come to your effect controls in your preview window. And we're going to go through the list. Now, this effect is pretty powerful, okay? You can change the white balance in here, and that's what we're going to start with first. So go to Basic Correction, and you can drop that down. What you'll see first is white balance, okay? If you have something white in your frame, you can click and drag this eyedropper over the white portion. My mouse is not working. Normally you can. Mouse. All right, you pumpkin. Can everybody else click and drag? That's really more the... Just click it. Just kidding. The other one's click and drag. So just click it and then select the white portion that is on your screen. Just click and it will change. It will tell the computer and it'll tell this program how you're defining white. Okay, so see how that added a lot more yellow into the picture? That's because I changed the value of white, gray, and black. So again, click. Bloop. If you don't have anything white in your shot, then you might have to do it manually. Now, if you want to get funky and tell the program white is green, you can click on the green item And with the color scale, it's going to add more red. So you can get creative with your white balance. Your white balance doesn't always have to balance to white, but you can do that later in color grading. So I suggest you get your footage to its optimal white, gray, and black by using this white balance. You can also manually do it, so if you don't have white in your frame, you can manually add blue and yellow into your frame with temperature. Okay? So if you're going to the left, you're going to add blue. If you're going to the right, you're going to add yellow. And then you have tint. Tint is green and red. So if you go to the left, you're going to add more green. If you go to the right, you are going to add more red. Again, you're doing this so you get your colors to their optimal quality before you color grade. Okay? Color correction and adding color to your footage for a specific style are two different things. All right. There's also this little thing, because it's always easy, called auto. You can click that, and it's going to interpret your footage. Sometimes that's where I start. Sometimes I just see what it gives me. You never know. It could be perfect. It may not be. But if you click auto, it's going to adjust all of the things below your white balance. I'm going to reset that. But underneath you have exposure. Okay, so you have temperature, tint, and white balance, getting everything to white, gray, black. Then you have exposure. What your exposure is going to do is brighten the entire frame. So everything in it, it's going to brighten or darken. So if something's a little bit too bright all around, you can bring that exposure down, or you can bring it up. If your image looks like this, it's too bright. It's kind of intuitive. There are meters for that, vector scopes, waveform monitors. That's a lot of technical stuff. But if you think it looks too bright, it probably is. Okay. Contrast is going to, of course, the difference. We're all pretty used to contrast. The difference between the blacks and the whites, it's going to make that more intense or less intense. Highlights. Highlights is going to affect the brighter portions of your image, but not the absolute whites, okay? So you are shortening that distance between that absolute white and your brighter elements. So again, it's going to brighten those. Your shadows is the same thing. It's not going to affect your absolute blacks, but it's going to affect those in-betweens, those grays, okay? Whites is what is going to affect your highest peak of white. So your absolute white you can bring down there or up. Your blacks, the same thing. I'm going to reset this. And I'm going to white balance right on his head. So my whites are white, my grays are gray, my blacks are black. That piece of footage looks good, okay? Now, if I wanted to, these are all the same time of day, if I wanted to blanket the entire footage with this color tone, I can click on Lumetri Color, Control-C or Command-C. I can select everything in my timeline, Control-V or Paste, and it will paste that effect on everything. So it pasted it in here. Warp stable, it pasted it in there. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You have to just maybe adjust one clip. We're going to use the same tool to kind of add some color grading, okay? Now that we are white, gray, and black, doop, doop, I'm going to just, so you can see all of those. We're going to go down to color wheels and match. Okay. Again, this is one of the most powerful tools in Premiere. You can do so much with it, and it really impacts your footage. So we're going to look at these shadows, midtones, and highlights. Shadows are going to, of course, it's going to add this color into your shadows. The midtones are only going to affect your midtones. Highlights, only the highlights. And you can click and drag the X's in each to add or take away colors in your shot. So you want to use complementary colors. We all kind of have our favorite looks to film. Some folks are very warm when they edit, so they have a lot of yellows in their highlights. So white is not always white, but it might have a little bit of yellow. Some Gatsby, I think, was very, very yellow. And then we have different styles like Shyamalan, all the other guys, who add blue to their shots. So this is how they do it. You want to use complementary colors in your shadows and your highlights. So complementary color to blue would be red. A very common choice to color grade your footage is turquoise and red. They will add turquoise into their shadows, so we'll start with that. So you'll click and drag this little X down to your turquoise. And what you'll notice is that some of those darker spots in this footage it's going turquoise. If you ever want to compare what you just did, you can turn that effect on and off. See how that changed right there? And then we're going to add some reds to my highlights. So I'll go to the highlight circle, add some reds there. Doop. Now let's see. This one, let's see. Let's go ahead and put the same color grade on it. All right. So I just copy and pasted that red and turquoise onto that first shot that I had, and see the difference? They're real complementary to each other. It gives the footage a unique kind of a look. And again, you can copy and paste if you're happy with that. You can paste that on every portion of your footage, and then you get that tone throughout, and you've color graded your footage. Now, there's another way that I want to teach you guys to put color on your timeline. These softwares are how we used to do it is it was shot after shot after shot, and what you would do is called linear editing. So it would be reel to reel or tape to tape, and you would start one tape and hit record, and then you would hit stop, and then you would shuttle over to your next shot, hit play and record. It's kind of like making a mixtape. That just aged me. Yeah, a mixtape. Yeah, if you've ever done that, you wait for the radio for the countdown of top 10, but you only want songs number 7, 5, and 1. So you wait for it, and then you hit record, and then you stop. Then you wait for record 5. Anyways, that was linear editing, and it was destructive. So if you recorded over song 5 with song 4, it was gone forever. This kind of editing is non-destructive, so you can pick things up and move things around and not destroy the original. And one of the ways that you can not destroy the original when you're color grading is with adjustment layers. So Photoshop, After Effects, I think. There's a lot of different ways that you can apply adjustment layers. What that does is if you go to your project bin and you hit New Item, right-click, New Item, Adjustment Layer. It's going to come up with the dimensions of your project. Now, what it's going to do is create kind of like a dummy layer. If you click and drag that over the clips, it's not going to do anything until you add an effect onto it. What I'm going to do is take off of these Lumetri colors. So if you just want to try out this color, so again, it's all the same, you can put it on that dummy clip, and it will affect everything underneath it. So that's just one way of not having to go to every single clip and put that effect on there. You create that adjustment layer, everything that it's above will read from the top down, so it's reading that Luma Tree or Luma Tree color, and it's visible below, okay? Any other effects that you all want me to cover now? And any questions that you might have? That is the basics of how you get started. When you incorporate audio into it, it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different beast. But you would go through the same process. You would go through, put them underneath your clips, and then you have your audio effects that you can play with and audio transitions you can play with. But once you learn to make your shots color corrected, so your whites, your grays, your blacks, put them in the order that you want, and then color grade that, it will give you a nice foundation. You can really do whatever you want with it. And especially correcting old video. So if you have really old yellow video, you can put blue in it, bring it back to life a little bit. All right, if there's no questions, yes? So Premiere is a paid program. It's an Adobe product. However, the good news is downstairs in the creative studios, there are some higher powered computers that you can use for free. You just sign up like a study room. And these laptops are all library checkout laptops. So if you want one with Premiere, check it out at the circulation desk. It'll have Premiere on it for you. So we've done the work for you. Anything else? You're just excited it's GoPro time, huh? Yeah. Ah, the important thing, saving. File save. That's easy, right? You ready, Freddie?
All right, thank you so much, Nina. Hope you all enjoyed that. This is the last Tech Tuesday for the semester, but we'll be back next semester in the fall. Tech Tuesday meets on the first Tuesday of every month during a regular school semester, so we will be back in September here in the Peggy V. Helmig Browsing Room at 2. We'll have even bigger prizes, even more stuff to learn, so we hope to see you all back here in the fall. Before we get to the GoPro really quick, I had mentioned the Library Creativity Award. The Library Creativity Award, Nina, would you please pull up the Library Creativity Award website?
I certainly can.
So the Library Creativity Award, you can enter anything that you've made in the last year. It could be for a class, it could be something you just made for fun, but really just about anything. There's 4 categories. We have 2D, which could be like photography, paintings, drawings, 3D, which could be models, things you've sculpted, things you've built, motion and animation, so things that you just learned how to make. If you win the GoPro, you can enter into the motion category. You just use your GoPro and win $1,000. And then we also have Wild Card. And Wild Card can literally be anything. We had someone enter a podcast this morning. So enter your podcast, enter something you made for engineering class. I don't know what it is, but you can enter as many times as you want. Each category prize comes with, like I said, a trophy and $300. And then Best in Show comes with $1,000. And so that's a lot of Chick-fil-A. So I encourage you all to apply for that. Entries are due next Monday, April 8th by 5 p.m. So we hope that you will all apply. Just about anything could be considered creative. I know a lot of people say they aren't creative, but I think everybody's creative, especially everyone here in this room. And I really hope you all find something that you can enter into, even if it's just something weird that you put into Wildcard. But next Monday, April 8th by 5 p.m., please enter. It's really simple. You just write a little paragraph and upload your file, and you're done. It takes 2 minutes to enter. Now, we will move on to the prize drawing. First of all, thank you to OState TV for coming out and recording our event for us. We'd like to say goodbye to our audience online. And now we'll move on with the drawing.